I mean, these kind of intuitive thoughts. I tell you something. There was a time. I share this with you people, and then we'll wrap this up. And I don't feel that this has, but this is a personal kind of story. That many years ago, when I was about 17, I started to study Arabic. And I used to study at home, and I became so engulfed in studying and learning Arabic. I became like kind of obsessed about it because I didn't have much else going on at the time. So I remember I used to work. I'd left college a bit early, and I'd got a job. So I used to work as in an insurance brokerage, and so at the time I would study every morning after Fajr, after Subh. I would study for about 25 minutes, that's all. And I used to make notes of everything, and I was so curious, and if I could get hold of somebody who knew Arabic, because we never had the internet back then like this. And so this is like maybe 1990, what is it, 6 or 7, maybe 97, maybe something like that. Yeah. So at the time, I came across in our local masjid, there was this person, this Maulana, but I never knew he was a Maulana. Okay, he never used to. I'm being judgmental when I say this, because back then, especially, you'd picture, the guy would be, Maulana Saab, and everybody would greet him as Maulana Saab, and no, nobody used to call him Maulana Saab. And his name was Maulana Saeed. His name was Saeed. And we used to just know him as Saeed Saab, and he used to appear a bit scruffy, and sometimes he was a bit dishevelled. I think he'd been through some personal problems, family problems, health problems. Maybe he was moving, maybe he wasn't stable in his accommodation. I don't know too much. We used to just see him in the mosque, and sometimes, he was a bit scruffy, and people never. And this one time, he came out with all this Arabic, and they used to be the Tablighi Jamaat, and he used to do some of the. He never used to do the bayan, but he would be sitting there, and he ended up speaking this Arabic, and I was like, "Whoa, you know Arabic?" I said to him, and he said, "Of course, I've done the whole Alim course and Maulana course in Pakistan years ago." He used to speak in Urdu to me. He said, "मैंने तो कब से पढ़ा हुआ है Pakistan में, this and that. I studied then, and I did this and I did that." And so I was like, "Oh, so you know Arabic? You know all these things?" And he said, "Yeah, of course." So I used to, whenever I could find this guy, I would ask him, "Please, can you stay behind after Salah?" And I used to always take my book, Quranic Arabic, which was like about this thick actually. And it was Dr. Surti's book. And I used to be like, "Oh, look, I've been through this. Can you explain this? I don't understand." I used to always say, "Acha, iska root verb kya?" What's the root verb? I used to always be asking this. And in a weird way, I think in some way it also gave, like, he was happy, it gave him some significance and importance, and not in a nice way. Because you see, when you have something, it's only when you can share it, that when people can appreciate it, that you feel valued. And he felt some kind of value, because people in general did not even know that he was a scholar. And I would, day in, day out, I would try and trap him and say, "Oh, Maulana Saab, could you, I've got these 10 words, can you explain them to me? And what's the root verb for this? I was going through this verse and I didn't get this verse, and what's this verb? What's this verb? What's the root verb?" And I remember one of the, ittaqu, comes from waqa, to protect, but I didn't understand where taqwa, the term, came. I mean, there were so many, but that's just an example. So I would often just sit down with him, and he would talk, and he would do things. And at the time, I so desperately wanted to study, but my family circumstances were such that it was literally impossible. Literally impossible. In fact, when I did go to study, it caused there was so much difficulty at that stage, because my family weren't really down with that kind of stuff, and it caused a lot of, there was, without going into it, but it was really difficult. At the time, it seemed impossible that I would have ever been able to study, systematically. I don't mean on your own, but I mean in a madrasa, or do something. And I remember at the time just kind of just accepting it, saying, okay, fine. But I thought to myself, at least if I can understand the Quran, that's all I want. So I used to go regularly, every time I could get hold, when I come back from work in the evenings, I'd see this Maulana Sahab, sit him down, say, Maulana, wait for me. And then I'd say, can we just sit in the masjid and go over this and go over that? And sometimes I'd ask him, Maulana Sahab, can we go over a short surah of the Quran? Can you explain it to me? And I used to go over so much, and I'd make notes. What's the root verb? So I remember he used to often say to me, okay, don't. He used to say to me, okay, don't interrupt me with root verb, right? So he'd often, whilst he would explain to me, and I asked him on some occasions, can you tell me a poem in Arabic? And he would tell me a poem. Here's a poem. Ya za'ira qabri, la ta'ajab min amri, amsi kuntu makanak ghadan takuna mithli. Like, he actually read that poem to me then in 97. And so things like this, I was so wowed, I could not get enough. And because maybe, like I said, it was a time when we weren't bombarded with media and we didn't have many other things to do apart from just hang out, and I was obsessed with this learning. So I remember once he even said to me, you should go to a madrasa. And I said, look, I can't. It's impossible in my condition, but I just want to be able to understand the Quran. And this one evening, I caught him, and we're sitting down and we're going through. I said to him, Maulana Sahab, can we go through a short surah, please? So he was going through one of the surahs with him, just me and him in the masjid. Just sitting there. It was a small masjid. It was in Handsworth in Birmingham. So he was going through it, and he was saying, this word means this, and this, and I'm like listening. And he just stopped suddenly. And he just looked at me, and he said to me, you know what? He said, you will get to study. And I just kind of smiled, and he said to me, not only that, he said, you will become a scholar, but you will become a great scholar. He said, you'll surpass so many people. Like, you'll be on such a high plateau of learning. So at the time, I just kind of, at the time, just laughed, like I often do. I said, and he said, no, he said, I'm serious. He said, you will. He said that, he said, on a world scale, that people will come to know of you. So I said to him, I wish, Maulana Sahab. And he said to me, but you'll forget me then. He said, you'll be like, who's this Maulana Saeed? Ye kaun hai? Ye Maulana Saeed? He said, bahut unche maqam tak pahuchoge. And Allah will give you great success. So, I just kind of laughed off his words and said, Maulana Sahab, what are you saying? And what's this word? And we kind of just left it there. But I have to say, at the time it didn't occur to me, but in later life, as events unfolded, and I did get to go, miraculously, I got to study and I got to achieve things, and things went from, one stage to another. His words always kind of echoed in my ears. And it's amazing how sometimes some people, maybe you value them, and from their hearts a dua is emitted that reaches the heavens. And destiny as you know it is overwhelmingly rewritten. That maybe everything that, you achieve certain things in life just because somebody made a kind dua for you. Like, you never know these things. So I think that's something, that's a very personal kind of story, which I often think about. And I tried to track down that Maulana Sahab. I couldn't. I once not accidentally, I once bumped into him about a decade ago. Yeah, I bumped into him, probably less than a decade, maybe about like 8 years ago or something, 9 years ago, just on a street somewhere, and and I approached him, and I did ask. I said, "Assalamu alaikum, Maulana Sahab," but I think he didn't stop for me, and he just briefly stopped and shook my hand, and I said, "Maulana Sahab, it's me, and it's Maulana Saeed, isn't it?" I said that, how are you doing, and this and that, and he was just talking non-stop, like he wasn't making any sense. He was just saying, I think there may be some mental health issues, and he was just saying things, and they didn't really. I said, "How are you doing, Maulana Sahab? I don't know if you remember me from Handsworth and years ago," and he just said, "Acha, aur kaise theek hai, sab theek hai, acha, haan, wo keh raha," and he's just talking away, and he just kind of like pulled his hand out, and and he just walked off. And I tried to say something, and I mean, I did try to track him down, but I don't, it's very few people knew where he is. I hope wherever he is, if he is, that, may Allah grant him good health. But likewise, people, do take your time out. Sometimes you have many hidden gems just around you. Value them. Whether it's in the form of your parents, your peers, your people you can learn from, people you can gain experience from. In these things, perhaps it's rigged in that way, that in it Allah has hidden certain treasures for you. Guys, with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Take very good care of yourselves. As always, it's been awesome. Inshallah. Much love. Inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Over and out, folks.